No one in my family knew, no one. And it's something that I kept as a secret for so many years, right? And it was a lot of shame.
Yeah. And it's you and me, babe, whatever comes. Knowing bigger hands are holding us, and the greatest days are ahead of us. Growing in love, learning to be a better us.
Hi there, we're so glad you tuned into A Better Us. Welcome to our home.
So here's a question for you. Is it okay to flirt? And I don't mean with your spouse, that's okay. But maybe you're on Facebook or at a party and you're just trying to be friendly, right? Or are you playing with fire?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Coming up, we're on the beach with Dr. Mike, and he has some definite thoughts on that subject.
And giving us some of their own insights on that topic, we have our kitchen couples, CFL football legend Mike Pinball Clemens and his wife Diane, and youth and children's pastors Eric and Kara Main.
Also, in the second half of the program, it's just the women of A Better Us in the segment we call Just Us Girls. Today, we're wading into some pretty deep waters as we talk about the baggage we bring into our marriages and what to do if that baggage is past abuse.
This is going to be a meaningful show, so stay with us.
All right, I got a question for you. Is it okay to flirt? How about that question for your next dinner party? That's a loaded question, I can tell you that right now. And here's another one. What is flirting? If you lock eyes with someone and that moment kind of lingers, does that count as flirting? Is that wrong? Is it right? What about if you comment a lot on someone's Instagram post or their Facebook post? Is that flirting? You looking for attention or are you just being kind? To some, behaving flirtatiously, whether it's in person or on social media, is period, outright wrong. Every time it's wrong. They say if you're invested in your partner, your eyes should not wander ever. Other people say, look, just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you can't look at the menu. You ever heard that one before? I've heard it before. In other words, as long as you don't touch another person, you can look and flirt all you want. People debate this question over and over and over again. It comes up most certainly as a topic in marital counseling. So I would ask you, as you're sitting on your couch, looking on your phone, watching, what do you think? Is it okay to flirt if you're married? Is it okay? I'm going to try to give you some answers on this. And rather than base these answers on my own opinion or my experience or our collective experience, maybe we should go to the scriptures to see what God has to say about it. The most relevant words regarding the subject, I believe, come from Jesus himself. He raised the standard for monogamy way up here when he said, look, if you look at another woman in lust, you commit adultery. Boom. Wow. I mean, the standard is way up here. And if flirting is defined as a behavior which suggests that you are sexually attracted to someone, but stopping short of saying it outright, it's clear that flirting is not a healthy activity for a married person to be engaged in. It's just not. That flirting it's not going to work in a healthy, committed relationship before Christ. Now, let's be fair. I know what some of you are saying. I hear it all the time. Some people are saying, look, I'm just trying to be kind. I'm just a nice guy or I'm a nice gal. And I just a little harmless flirting. I'm just trying to make people feel good. If that's your position, here's what I would say. This is a question of language. If you're truly just trying to be kind, obviously there's no harm, no foul. If you're truly just trying to speak life into someone, I get it. But I'm going to challenge you. You can't just think that without Dr. Mike kind of getting in your face a little bit on it. You ready? I would have you ask yourself this question. Are you lingering in a conversation with a particular person to be kind, just to be kind? Is that the only motivation? Do you find yourself commenting on someone's social media post more often than that would be typical for you because you're just trying to be kind? Or is there another motivation? Are you looking for a little attention? Because if so, then you might be rationalizing your behavior and putting yourself and your spouse at risk for some significant pain. And so the ultimate answer here to the flirting question is clear, and it's based on a biblical truth that permeates Scripture over and over and over again. And it's this one concept: our status as people who bear God's image. If you want to make sure that you never cross that line, you never cross the flirting line, yet consistently communicate kindness and all the warmth that you want to other people, just do this one thing: treat everyone like they are a child of God, created in His image. Make that your goal. And I can guarantee you this: if that is your intention, if that's driving your behavior, your spouse is not going to be upset. That will come through in your countenance, that will come through in how you speak to people, and the conversation is over. So at the end of the day, if you can, with good conscience, look at your spouse and look at your God and say, I treated that person like they are the child of God that they are, the conversation is done.
Okay, Dr. Mike. He went there. He's
went
talking
there.
flirting.
Yeah.
And so that is some great insight,
know
and to ask yourself some of those questions.
When he first asked the question, is it okay to flirt? I thought to myself, okay, Dr. Mike, this is a no-brainer. Of course it's not okay to flirt. Like, seriously. But then when he mentioned how Jesus brought the bar really high for marriage, that you have to really watch even how you think in your mind, not just how you act. You know, it could be that maybe we do need to kind of take stock here and say, okay, let's take a breath, take a pause, and say, let's evaluate how we act around people. Really. Yeah.
Our motives. So that becomes the challenge, because you know, as he said, you think, oh, it's just innocent. Maybe things kind of start out that way, you know, and whether it's, you know, on Facebook and or whatever, and commenting, and then there's some back and forth, and then and then there's kind of a secrecy thing that happens.
Dr. Mike, we had lunch with Dr. Mike a while back, and he was telling us, you know, he always mentions the clinical office, and he sees couples all the time. That's what he does, and he's really good at what he does. He told us that the two top issues that he runs into that destroy marriages are pornography, which you can totally understand, and Facebook. Facebook, which really shocked us too. And I mean, there's nothing wrong with Facebook, but it's how you use Facebook. And
It's so easy to start flirting, you know, flirting with someone and secret. And you know, there was a story of a guy who came up to me, and he was saying, he was just crying, and he was broken. And he said, my wife just left me. We have a small child. Oh my goodness, what happened? And he said, well, she reconnected with this old high school flame on Facebook. And they started going back and forth. I had no idea what was going on, and then before you know it, they decided to meet up, and had an affair, and so it was devastating for him. But something as innocent as starting out on Facebook, but it was that flirting thing.
It's the flirting. It's so easy to cross that line without realizing it. So, you know, I mean, of course, I think all of us would agree the answer is it's a no-brainer. Of course it's not okay to flirt.
That's right, yeah. In my notes, I have, the topic, is it okay to flirt? I have, nope, not healthy. Keep your attention on your spouse. That's what I have. It's not healthy.
But sometimes people can justify it if they feel like their needs aren't getting met.
Right.
So like maybe I don't feel emotionally connected to Eric right now, but now all of a sudden, so innocently, I'm messaging someone on Facebook, Instagram, or talking to them wherever that may be, and so then it starts to lead you down this path that it might have started out with, my needs aren't being met, and now all of a sudden it turned into this thing. But really you need to refocus, like you were saying, and say, how is our marriage? How are we doing? Maybe we need a checkup.
When you keep your spouse at front of mind, when your spouse is always first, that will block some of those things. Like for me, even when I don't even like having a conversation with another guy, like honestly, and I know for Michael, even on his phone, he don't like to keep ladies' phone numbers in his phone because he's like, you know, go through my wife. He'll always give people my number. I'm like, why are you giving them my number? He's like, because they need to contact you because they want me to do this, right?
I
But
like
when
that.
I like when you have your spouse first, it cuts out some of this other stuff, and then you don't have to have these issues come up.
Even our good friends, right? Good friends of ours, right? They'll have Diane's number. If it's the girl, they'll have Diane's number, and so it's important that way. And social media is a different age, and that's why I'm not on Facebook, honey. But I sort of come at it from a little bit different angle, being in sport and pro sport, and kind of being in that dynamic, and three things that I always try to do. Number one is reference Diane affectionately at some point in the conversation, because people come up to you and they're girls, they're fans of football, and so you need to be kind and talk and engage. But if you can feel it, right? If you feel it, I reference Diane, right? Then the second thing then is there are times where, you know, when you feel it, then you actually make sure you control the dialogue. Right? Okay? Because there's a direction that it can go. They've already put the feeler out. There's a direction this is go. Now you control the dialogue. If you can't control the dialogue, leave.
Get out.
Yeah, that's it. So really, refer to your bride, right? Then control the dialogue, and then if that doesn't work, you leave. Period. That's just easy.
And I love that, and I love the point that Kara brought up too. Sometimes if you're in your marriage and you're going through a dry patch, or you know, we all get busy, and you feel a disconnect from your spouse, but say there's a girl that you work with in the office, or woman you work with in the office, and she's meeting that need, you know, to touch base, you know, talking about your day or giving you that honor and respect that you're not getting at home, and because of just whatever life is happening, you've got to be careful that you don't take that down that road, because to the flirting, to the what that leads to. Because, you know, this is a commitment. This is a covenant you've made, no matter what the emotions are happening, no matter what is happening at home. And so say he's not meeting those needs right now, but that's okay. You need to take stock and then maybe just go to your spouse and say, honey, I'm feeling disconnected from you right now. Can we sit down and see how we can make that connection come back? Because it's so easy for temptation to take you away from your spouse if there isn't those needs being met.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's good. So just examine your motives, examine the health of your own relationship, and see if you're trying to substitute what's missing there with someone else.
And take it to God. Take it to God. Bring God in the mix. If you're really having some battles here, say, okay, God, this is not going in a direction that you and I are pleased with. You know, so help me to take a breath, press pause, and say, okay, no, I got to turn back from this road that's going that way and go back to this direction.
And
maybe,
if I can go ahead.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, maybe being self-aware. Maybe you know you are more on the flirty type, putting in those extra boundaries, even though people might be like, well, why are you putting in all of these boundaries? Well, this is worth it.
That's right.
This is worth the boundaries of not saving women's phone numbers in your phone, or if you're going to message the opposite sex, make sure you're both in the message. Or if you have to meet with somebody, we're both pastors, so meeting with people happens all the time, and we've made sure that either we know about it, it's in a very public place, or we're always together, because then we can do it together.
Even position Kara in between me and that woman, and that means I have to talk through Kara to her. And it's just I have what's dearest to me closer to me.
That's good. That's really good.
And I just wanted to translate your comments, and for men, right? So careful to men means committed. So ladies can be careful. Guys, you need to be committed. You need to understand that we are committed to our relationship, because guys can't be careful, right? You go in there and you get in that. I've seen it too many times. You can't be careful. You got to be committed, right? And so ladies, careful. Guys, committed. Right?
Okay.
That's good stuff.
All right, and with that, we will move on, because coming up is going to be just the girls talking in the segment called Just Us Girls.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about some really deep, good stuff, so make sure you stay with us.
We're going to listen in.
You're going to listen in, it's okay. You can.
No one in my family knew, no one.
It's something that I kept as a secret for so many years, right? And it was a lot of shame.
Yeah.
Hey friends, Ron and Ann here. We're so glad you're with us at A Better Us, and we pray your marriage is blessed as you take this in.
Be sure and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this video.
Well, we're back in the backyard of some dear friends who said, come on over with your Just Us Girls team, and here we are. We've got Kara and Danielle, Diane, and Dr. Mary. You're back. We love having you with us.
Thank you.
You have been a clinical psychologist for 25 years. You've talked to couples and families and individuals about those really deep heart issues. And so that's why we're really glad you're here with us today.
Thank you.
And today we're going to be talking about something that we all deal with in marriage, and that's the baggage we bring with us into our marriage, especially if we've had past abuse before getting married.
That's right. And I think when we grow up in the Christian world, the word abuse just seems so far away. That could never happen to me. My parents loved me, and yeah, they made a few mistakes, but no, absolutely there was no abuse. And I find sometimes I see young women becoming very naive, falling into situations where they aren't realizing that they're meeting men who don't treat them well. So abuse can be physical, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual, any way times that a woman is being treated as less than or with disrespect. And so, you know, all of us come through life with having had some experiences, and even if we've had great parents, we still struggle because we live in a fallen world and our parents are broken people as well, and they have their stuff too. So for example, in my family, my dad, he was a dreamer, and he was always chasing the dream. Whether it was to be a doctor or a pastor, but he was always busy. He was never around. And the only time I saw him was when he was criticizing me or punishing me. He really wasn't around to affirm me or make me feel like I was special. So guess what? Out of that came a real abandonment issues, rejection issue. I didn't feel beautiful before guys. And so when I finally found my husband, I thought he was going to be the one. He is going to love me unconditionally. He's going to be there for me 100%. Exactly, just like a savior. Yeah. And I honestly believed it. And when he failed me, which you learn very early on he will, because he's human, he can't do it, then I kept projecting onto him blame and blame. And I was angry for the first few years of our marriage because I had wanted from him what my daddy issues created in me. So that's something that I know, having talked to many women, that's something that whether you've had overt abuse or just abandonment or just some struggles with your family of origin, that it has led to some, challenges in your marriage. So, I don't know, Diane, if you are open to share, but I know that you've had a, beautiful story of redemption, but there's also been pain in that.
Absolutely. And it's funny how you talk about how it affects your marriage, because for many years, I just recently started sharing my story because I was so embarrassed. I didn't know how to talk about it. No one in my family knew, no one. It's something that I kept as a secret for so many years, right? And it was a lot of shame. And I remember one day, my husband came to me because he could read my body language so well. And he said, something's going on. I don't quite know what it is, but something's off with you, right? And it's because in the program before, we kind of talked about couples and marriage and sex and how to read your spouse's body language. And sure enough, the floodgates just opened. It was time for me to just release, right? And I started, because my husband didn't even know. And I started sharing with him how when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I had a family member that took advantage for probably a good 2 or 3 years. And it was done in such a way that he made me feel like he was doing it to help me.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Talk about manipulation.
And if you let me touch you here, I'll give you this.
Wow.
If you let me, or he would tell my parents, oh, I'll come pick her up and take her to church today. You don't have to worry about her getting there. And I would look at my mom. I remember I would look at my mom and I would just pray that she would say no, right? And she trusted him so much because he was family.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, no problem. He would take me to church, and on the way to church, the hand would start, right? And I'd be mortified. And this went on and on and on. And I was terrified to say anything because I knew my dad would kill him. Literally, he would kill him. I knew my mother trusted him so much.
Right.
And
It
he
would be a
was
betrayal.
family. It would, and you know, in those days, you didn't talk about stuff like that. You know, families didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to, so what did I do?
Keep it in.
Suppress it.
That's right.
For years.
And it's all your fault.
I
It's
just
something
covered
shameful.
it. I was embarrassed. I was like, maybe it was my fault, right? And for years, I dealt with that. And when I was able to share that with my husband, it was like God just lifted 1,000 pounds off my chest. Like it was a night of just crying. It was a night of I say to myself, I ask myself all the time, had I said something earlier, how many young women would it have saved? Because years later I found out that I wasn't the only one. And it was worse things that happened to other girls that maybe I could have prevented had I spoken up. And it was just to be able to talk about it was huge for me. And I thought that it was important because I have girls.
Right.
And I wanted my girls to be able to know if anything like this ever happened to you, you've got to talk about it. You've got to tell somebody. Whatever you do, don't keep it to yourself. You have to talk about it because it affects everything around you, your relationship with not just with your spouse, but with your family, with your friends, with everyone. It affects everything.
Well, people say that when they've had sexual abuse, it becomes so integrated in their sense of identity as to who they are. And often it'd be words like, I'm stupid, I'm dirty, I'm no good.
You feel like you're not
Why
good
would
enough.
anybody want me?
Yeah.
So of course you're going to keep that hidden. But you were able to be honest with your husband about it. And it sounds like it was a healing moment
It was.
for you.
It was.
Can you
indeed.
tell us a little bit more about that?
After the floodgates opened and we talked, like my husband at first was speechless.
Yeah.
Like he was angry. He wanted to go find it. Like it was just a load of emotions that went over him. And then he looked at me and he said, do you know how much you're loved? Do you know how much you're loved? Not just by me, but he says, God loves you. And he says, it doesn't matter with me. It changes nothing with our relationship. I love you just the way you are.
Wow.
Baggage and all, he says, I love you. And we can work through this together. And that's what I needed to hear, right? Because I felt like I'd been keeping this secret for so long. And I didn't want to hide it from him. But I didn't know how to tell him, right? But when that opportunity came to me and I was able to just share with him and for him to be so accepting,
Yeah, the grace that you needed.
it meant the world to
Yeah.
me, right?
That probably restored your trust as well.
It did.
To men who were close to you.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I can share this with you and it's safe. I'm
Yeah.
safe being this vulnerable in front of you.
Yeah, because for years, I would keep my distance around certain men that reminded me of him. Or so, like even my kids, I wouldn't allow my girls to be around certain people that would go to sleepovers. Like it affected everything. It affected everything in my world. While he had no, like the
No
person that did,
repercussions at all.
none,
Yeah.
zero.
You know, Diane, you said earlier, I wish I had have told, you know, I could have saved others, but look at so many people that are going to be watching right now, all women across the country that are listening to you right now tell your story and going to get the bravery to speak up. It's so important. And I think, you know, when you have a cut and you're bleeding, we're all bleeding in some way. And I found for me, marriage was the pressure that stopped up that wound, and at first it hurts, but I needed it to heal. And you know, I thought for me the wound was coming from a divorced family. My parents were divorced, and at first I thought I was unscathed, but then I got married, and some of those issues, those wounds started to
Broken trust.
to surface, and I started to bleed a little bit more. And so thankfully I had, just like you, Diane, such a wonderful, loving spouse who just let me heal, and who helped me to heal, and so I thank God for that. Yeah.
Makes a difference.
Well, I think one of the key things that both of you are saying is, you know, for the husbands out there, it isn't about beating up the bad guy, fixing the problem, taking away the pain. It's actually just being able to say, I love you no matter what, and we're going to get through this together. It's the presence of their love and their safety with you. It's not because this is your journey, this is your pain, this is what you have to resolve through, and also recognizing, owning, oh man, I know you love me, but I still project my pain onto you, and I know you're not the perpetrator, but sometimes when you touch me, it feels like, and I have to just work through that, and I have to ask the Lord to heal that, right?
That's it. Because for so long, you carried that baggage, and you just feel dirty. Like a part of you just feel just unclean. Right? So you're totally right when you say that.
And abuse really comes in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes it's as devastating as what you've lived through and what you've lived, and other times it's coming from a background of having been emotionally or verbally abused. You know, it might not seem like that bad, but really for a child, it cuts deep, and it really does scar you, and you have to relearn how to relate to people in those trigger points of just, okay, take a step back, and it's like, my husband isn't the one who hurt me so badly, and so when he says things like that, it's not coming from a bad place. It's an innocent place. He doesn't realize it. So having to walk through that and work through that is crucial. Well, this has been a different Just Us Girls, where we've really shared very vulnerably from our hearts and candidly. And thank you, girls, for opening up the way you did, because this is very vital that we share like this. Well, stay with us. There's more Better Us to come.
We've covered a lot of ground in today's show, from Dr. Mike on the beach to your Just Us Girls chat. It's been deep and it's been good.
We've touched on issues we can all relate to, from the importance of protecting the sacredness of our relationship and not playing with fire, to being vulnerable and opening up about our past wounds. When it comes to marriage, we should talk about all of it.
We love to bring you topics that spark discussion. So if we've said something that has started a conversation between the two of you, that's great.
But maybe you're in a place where the conversation needs to include someone else, a trusted professional who can help you to navigate some pretty deep waters. There's no shame in seeking help. When you do, you're actually fighting to protect the integrity of your marriage.
And it's always good to bring your concerns to God, because there's no one who knows us better or loves us more. He receives us just the way we are, and that's some really good news, because all of us are far from perfect.
If you'd like someone to help you bring your needs and past hurts to God, we invite you to call our prayer line. The toll-free number is on the screen, and it's always available.
You won't regret making that call. Well, thanks again for stopping by. Remember, with God, there is always hope to become a better us. Hey friends, we really hope you're enjoying the marriage conversations here with A Better Us on our YouTube channel.
We have hundreds of more helpful marriage videos designed to give you hope and tools to make your marriage better.
You can see just a few options we think you might like here and here.
Enjoy! Oh, and make sure you subscribe by clicking here so you don't miss out on all the great marriage help we have coming your way soon.